Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very senior official from the United Nations with an incredibly story and an author talking to us from Florida, USA, Christine Sadry. Christine, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on your show. I truly appreciate being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Christine is an author of a book titled 13 Years Lost, which is a memoir chronicling her escape from communist Poland. She served as a global peacekeeper with the United Nations. So, Christine, before we start talking about your book, what do you remember most about the moment you left Poland when you were just 9 years old?
I would say anticipation and anxiety, looking forward to what is going to happen, a little sadness leaving my family. But even at 9, I was going to America from a communist country. So I was excited, but nervous, the future and leaving the past.
Yeah. Well said. And after arriving in the US, how did you survive 13 years of silence and hardship in your adoptive home?
I would say it was very difficult. First, you don't know the language.
Yeah.
You don't have any family. You don't know a soul. You are alone. And, as soon as I arrived, I realized that my situation was not as happy or as welcoming as I thought. Everything I brought from Poland disappeared the next morning. All my identity, it was all locked up in another room. Every gift, every document, every piece of clothing. So there was a chill going down my back. But I had maybe this determination that I had to survive. I had to survive for myself. I also wanted, in my heart, I wanted to help my family because I know that, I had 3 sisters back in Poland. I had a grandmother that I adored on this farm and it was cold. So it was just knowing that it was up to me. And survival, I think, instincts kicked in, even at that age.
Wow. And how did your early trauma shape the way you later approached diplomacy, empathy, and human rights in the United Nations?
Well, I would say that, kindness, I think, and being, when I left my difficult life, there was abuse, there was just a lot of loneliness. I realized I had to let it go because it would shape my future. If I carried all those difficulties with me, all the hardship, all the sadness, it would make every decision I make based on those things.
Right.
And, I just, even at the age of 20 or 21, when I left these people, I realized I had to let it go and I had to look towards the future. It is not, the past does not make us. It is what we create ahead of us. It is how we plan for a future.
Yeah.
So I think that really, I realized there would be difficulties, but I also realized we have the power to overcome these difficulties.
Correct. Very well said. Let's now come to your book, 13 Years Lost. I'm going to ask all our viewers and listeners to go and check out Christine Sadry's book, 13 Years Lost. So my first question is, what made you decide to write your book after 3 decades at the UN? How difficult was it for you to revisit your past and write about painful memories with such honesty?
It was difficult. Well, I realized writing a memoir, you have to write the truth.
Yeah.
You're not going to make up stories, otherwise it's fiction. So I had to write the truth. And it was very painful. I mean, there are chapters that even though I went over, because I wanted it to reflect exactly how I felt, I sat and I cried. I mean, you cry, you have those memories. Even though you've moved on, you're older, you've experienced so much life, but there is still inside that person who suffered, who was very lonely,
Yeah.
who was confused, who was hoping for the best,
Mm.
to make out of life. And so many things happened to me as a child that I would start writing it down. I'm like,
Mm.
I can't believe this.
Mm.
I don't think everyone is going. So I would just take a notepad and I would just write things. And things kept happening. I mean, I was blessed by the Pope.
Mm.
Pope John Paul II at the UN, with
Mm.
2,000 people. I learned how to drive a tank. I was held up at gunpoint. So many things kept happening. And I'm like, and as a woman, I overcame so many difficulties
Mm.
that not only for women, but for anyone who is struggling.
Yeah.
I thought, I need to write it down because
Mm.
maybe these words will let others know that no matter how difficult your life is, and when
Mm.
you don't see how you can come out of it
Mm.
and make a life, there are possibilities.
Mm.
So once I decided to okay, I need to write it. And also I thought, before I die, I want to write it because
Mm.
I didn't want to come back and relive this life and then have to write it. So I'm like, once I'm done with it.
Absolutely.
And
Really.
so it's just, and also my niece, I would give her some notes, just wondering whether it would, how she would feel, what she would think, because she lived with her mother who was searching for me. So she knew the background
Mm.
of what was going on. And every time I sent her some notes that I wrote down, she's like, Auntie, you have to write a book. This is
Wow.
wonderful.
Mm. Fantastic.
So, yeah.
Fantastic. But Christine, reclaiming identity is a very strong thread in your book. What does that process look like, especially for someone shaped by trauma?
Well, you with trauma, I believe you have to make peace with it.
Right.
You can't carry trauma with you, because if you do, every decision you make will be with that trauma.
Mm.
So the first thing, once I left this difficult life,
Mm.
the abuse, the loneliness, I made a decision to let it go. Just
Mm.
in my mind, I mean, this is a new life. This is a new door.
Yeah.
And even though, like, my adoptive father tried to beat me down, to take away my identity,
Mm.
it was always deep inside. Maybe it was my grandmother, who I saw as a very strong, competent person. Even,
Mm.
her daughter died, her son-in-law left, and she was still taking care of the farm. She never harped about anything. She never complained. She just
Mm.
was very stoic,
Mm.
kind, and she moved on. And I
Mm.
think I wanted to emulate that.
Amazing.
And maybe that strength I carried on in my heart.
Mm.
And I knew that I didn't leave a communist country to do nothing. I
Mm.
wanted to make something of my life that I could look back and say, you did a
Correct.
good job, or the best you could under the
Mm.
circumstances.
Mm.
And this allowed me, especially, doing well in school. By the time I graduated, I was an honor student.
Mm.
Getting a job. I think it's very important for women to also find, as men, find their worth,
Yeah.
finding a good job, getting, insurance, health insurance,
Mm.
very important,
Mm.
and finding the dignity through work, and to, be able to do so well, to get a promotion, to
Mm.
figure out the system. I was working for the US government in the beginning, Social Security Administration, from
Mm.
an admin position to an examiner position. So once you see that you are capable of rising above the
Mm.
trauma, the
Mm.
the sadness, and to make a life, I think that really helps.
Mm. Fantastic. Christine, your story is also about dislocation, leaving your homeland and adapting in a foreign land. How did you finally find your sense of belonging?
That's a very good question. I wouldn't. I feel like I belong to the world. Like, I don't belong in Poland
Yeah.
because I left there. It's not home. I don't belong in Philadelphia because it was so traumatizing. And then when I ended up in New York, New York is this very vibrant
Melting
city
pot.
that
Yeah.
everyone is from everywhere.
I know.
So it's like, and then I ended up working, in the Congo, in Sierra Leone, Mozambique. So I would say it's more like belonging to the world. You don't belong to one city,
Yeah.
to one area, but you're more of you belong to the world itself. You can go and be and grow and learn from because the world is out there for us to experience, to learn, to help.
Amazing.
So I would say it's my belonging. Within yourself, you have to find that. You have to find the security, the knowledge that you are okay and you are complete, and then you experience the world.
Fascinating. Absolutely. And you're so right. Belonging to the world is a very powerful statement, and not many of us can say that. Thank you. Christine, many readers say your book resonates because of its theme of forgiveness. What did forgiveness look like for you, both of others and yourself?
Forgiveness. Well, my adopted parents, they separated from everything I loved, from my
Mm,
past, from my homeland, from my grandmother, my sisters, everything I knew. And you can't hold hate in your heart and make a good life. You can't hold all the frustration, the anguish continually, and
mm,
think you're going to make a great life for yourself when you
yeah.
are holding on that. When I left, whether it's forgiveness, I just thought that was their life. Let it go.
Mm,
Let all the hard day go. Let them be who they are. I
mm,
actually tried to reconnect with them later with my adoptive father, but he never opened the door. I was there. I stood there. He never cared to open. And I even mentioned to my daughter, I said, we came to the wrong house.
mm,
And I swore inside of myself I would never put myself through that pain again.
mm,
But I let it go. It was something I experienced. It was still, the pain was still in my heart, but to carry it would affect every choice I made.
well
So
said.
the most important thing was to let that go. You can't even things out. We all have a life. We all
Absolutely.
make mistakes. These people, maybe they had a good intention, maybe they didn't,
Yeah.
but now it was up to me. And just let their life be, let them live their life, and let me try to find and live
Mm,
my life to the
mm,
best I can without the pain, the hate,
yeah.
carrying that burden, like a Velcro
Mm,
stuck to you, where every decision you make, they're there. I
mm,
wanted to make every decision based on how I'm growing,
mm,
and also finding using every bit of knowledge and experience to work on a good life, to be kind to
yeah.
people. I wanted people to be kind to me, then be kind to others.
Correct. Correct. What a great response. Thank you. You also talk about 13 years of silence. What finally gave you the courage to speak out?
Well, 13 years, I wasn't able to tell anyone. My adopted parents told me I couldn't tell anyone I was adopted. I mean, people knew in the neighborhood. I
Mm,
wasn't allowed out of the house. I didn't know the language.
mm,
And my father put so much fear in me that I was so afraid to say anything to anyone for years.
mm,
Um, and even when I started to get out of the house at 14, 15, I still didn't tell anyone. Um, there was one moment where I was in the Congo working with one woman from Kenya.
Mm.
And I was in charge of the Board of Inquiry Investigations. And at one point she said to me, she said, "You must have had a charming life to be in this position, to be in charge of Board of Inquiry." And that was the first time that I was like, oh my God. I said, no. I said, I had a very difficult life. I had no mother. I had no father. I had no one. And she looked at me. She said, in amazement, because she had assumed I was this totally
Mm.
this woman who had everything handed to her. And that was the beginning of me wanting to say, no,
Mm.
nothing was handed to me. Everything that I did in my life, it was by pulling the straps, by my hands, pulling it up and
Mm.
just making it happen.
Yeah.
And that's when I decided, if people think that I had this cushy life, it was the furthest thing. I
Absolutely.
mean, I've had concussions, I've had abuse, I've had loneliness. There was nothing cushy, but that sort of said, well, if people see that, I want them to know where I came from, that they could make a great life for themselves no matter what happened to them.
Yeah.
And that really sort of even propelled me to write the book.
Wow. How did the early years of isolation affect your later relationships, both personal and professional?
Uh, I it was difficult because I didn't fit in the beginning.
Mm.
When my mother died, my sisters left, so I was like awkward. I was alone. I came to America. I don't know the language. The
Mm.
people are not. My adopted parents were not the most kind, so I was alone.
Mm.
Um, I didn't know how to make friends because,
Mhm.
they said, don't tell anyone, don't talk to anyone, don't tell anyone you're adopted.
Mm.
Of course, with my Polish accent, everybody knew that I was from a
Mm. Mm.
foreign country. People even would make jokes. But I think that because there was so much unkindness and cruelty,
Mm.
I realized I wanted to be the opposite.
Mm.
I wanted love. So I wanted to be a loving person. I wanted to be a friend. Or even to help. There were times where I tried to tell my friends how to figure out their life. And of course,
Mm.
nobody wants to hear it.
Yeah.
They want to do it on their own. But that taught me to be kind,
Mm.
because I've suffered so much unkindness
Yeah.
and judgment that I didn't want to do that to anyone. I didn't want to put any woman, especially, through that.
Well said. A few minutes back, you were telling me about when you were held at gunpoint, you were blessed by the Pope, and you actually drove a tank, which are very three different experiences,
Yes.
isn't it? How did each of these shape you and your view of courage?
Well, being blessed by the Pope, Pope John
Absolutely.
Paul was just elected. I didn't. Was coming to the United Nations the first time, the visiting Pope. I had no expectation of even seeing him because they were drawing tickets, and my boss, Byron, he was at one point in protocol. So I was working on the International Conference on Women, and we had no chance of even getting these tickets because that's the only way to get in.
Mm.
But my friend Shirley spoke to Byron, who knew people in protocol, and we received like 15 tickets, and they were going to draw straws. And my friend Shirley knew a bit about my life, so she's like, Christine, you have no luck.
Mm.
Come in the morning and I'll give you a ticket. So
Mm.
she did, quietly. And Monday morning, we heard the sirens and the Pope arriving, and we were all excited. Oh my God. We really didn't know the impact the Polish Pope would have, but
Mm.
it was the excitement, the energy
Mm.
was in the air. So I left my office
Mm.
and I had this ticket for the General Assembly. So I decided, I saw people already by the GA, the doors were closed, waiting to get in. So I'm like, well, if they're not getting fired, I won't get fired either for not going
Mm.
back to work. And once they opened the doors, They let us all in. I was in the 10th row in the middle. I remember counting. And I was, oh my God, I felt so blessed to be in this moment, to be at the United Nations, the
Yeah.
General Assembly, and the Pope John Paul II was there at the podium. I'm like, oh my God, this is a miracle.
Correct.
And so you have all the ambassadors sitting, the directors, and all the fortunate people that were able to get a ticket to see the Pope. And at some point, I don't know. I mean, everyone was sitting quietly. You could hear a pin drop. My body, my being just got up. There was no thought. I didn't plan anything. I would never. I mean, I'm new to the UN. I would never do anything like that. And I remember my body got up and I heard me, because I was in the middle row, like an echo in my ear saying, excuse me, excuse me. And I'm like thinking, what am I doing? What is going on?
Yeah.
And I get out of the seat and I start walking and I'm looking at my feet saying, God, please let me sit down. And he was not listening. And I'm watching my feet. I'm like, God, they're going to shoot me. I'm going to get fired from my job. Please, everyone is sitting except me walking up the aisle.
Amazing.
And I get there and there's the rope, where the Pope was up on the podium. And I'm thinking, God, please let me sit down. This is so embarrassing. And I'm standing there. And the security of the Pope or the UN security comes, grabs my hand and says, sit down. I couldn't talk. Nothing would come out. I just probably looked like God help me. And then the like a secretary or the assistant of the Pope came over, grabbed my other hand and like, stay there. So both of them got frustrated, left my hands go. And I'm still talking to God to please let me sit down. And then out of nowhere, my hands started to rise. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I am embarrassing myself. There are 2,000 people and I am standing there by the podium there. And my hands are going up and they're going, and I'm looking at my hands. I'm looking, God, what are you doing? And where are they going? And they keep going up, up and higher. And finally they stop and I'm standing there with both of my hands up, embarrassed and just praying, help me. And at that moment, the Pope finishes his statement, whether he had to or whatever. He turns around, puts his hands up like I have, and we're both standing facing each other like this. So the security comes, removes the rope, and I walk up to the Pope. He gives me the ring. I kiss the ring, and he gives me the papal blessing.
Wow.
And then of course, all the people in the front aisle started rushing and pushing, and all I did was just cry because I couldn't believe, all this that had happened. So it wasn't courage. It was something within me that lifted my physical being and carried me to that moment. And I just felt like God knows you're there, even though amidst all the troubles, all the pain, all the loneliness, God knows you. It was just that feeling, I'm not alone.
What an amazing story. Thank you so much for sharing it with us. I have time for two more questions for you, Christine. How has this book changed you, not as a survivor, but as a human being?
Wow. I just never expected to write it. I thought about it. And so I feel a sense of accomplishment, and it's out there. I hope that someone can read it and see you can do it. If I, as an immigrant from Poland at 9 years old, have able to make a wonderful life, anyone can do it. Also, I wanted to write a book that would turn, so many things happen that would not be boring. I hate boring books.
Yeah.
And it has won 4 awards. I didn't write a book to win awards, but it has won the Literary Titan Award, the American Writing Award, the Indies Today Award, and the Independent Book Publishers Silver Award. So, I mean, aside from putting my book out to the world, it has been accepted in such a beautiful way that I am so deeply honored that people have loved it. I'm amazed, and I'm so grateful.
Amazing. Congratulations. And
Thank
my
you so
last question to you, Christine. As you look back at life, what would you say to the young girl you once were, alone, frightened, but full of potential?
Wow. Life is going to get really, really, really rough. It's going to be difficult. It's almost going to kill you. But if you don't give up, and if you keep looking towards the future, you can make a great life.
Amazing. And on that note, and this incredible piece of advice, life will, as you say in America, throw you a curveball, but
Oh, this wasn't a curveball. This was a bomb.
absolutely. But you keep fighting it on as you have done. Thank you, Christine, for talking to me about your incredible journey. Thank you for sharing so many amazing stories. Your story with about the blessing by the Pope was so incredible. Thank you also for sharing so many different learnings that you've had through your life with me and my readers and viewers. Thank you again, and good luck.
Thank you so much. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.